everybody, welcome to the first ever EJS online art class. So we're going to be doing a project today that I'm super excited about because it's using materials that maybe aren't traditionally art tools or art materials and making them into something that looks like a masterpiece. So what we're doing is from stuff you have at home, or hopefully they have close by, if it's something that's recycled or just stuff you kind of have kicking around. There's no real right or wrong with what materials you use, but I'll show you a couple things that I have and explain the project a bit more. But yeah, so here's a little demo that I worked on. Do a little zoom in on there. So it's using these materials to create a sculptural piece. So what we have here, some materials that you'll need to kind of get started. I did mine on a piece of cardboard, and I think that's important to being able to stick these things on. So it's about the size of just a normal piece of paper, which I have here. It's normal paper like that you put in your printer and that you kind of have, most people have at home, is 8.5 by 11 inches. So that size, I think that's a good size to work with. But that being said, if you have a cardboard box at home or anything like cardboard, I find it's best. It has a bit more structure, so you're able to stick things onto it without it being flimsy. Some of the materials I used to create this coral reef-like looking underwater creature-filled piece. A big thing that I found was handy, coffee filters. So if you have coffee filters hanging around the house, they're really inexpensive, and they come in usually really big packs. We don't need to use very many, but they work really well. I'll show you ways to fold them up. And yeah, they're really, they're easy to fold. It's a really light material. So you can use a lot of them or you can make it look like you're using a lot of them by folding them. And it has a really nice, like, flowy effect. And you can manipulate them in different ways to create different effects. I also have we basically used a cardboard box to put the project on, and then I had some extra pieces from the folds of the box, so you can use cardboard. As you can see, I'll show you how to strip the cardboard, so you can use it and then fold it in different ways as well. So if you have extra cardboard that you're not using, that's other than the base of the cardboard. I also have some tin foil, usually great, usually kicking around the house as well. Any kind of plastic, if you have like some saran wrap or any kind of like plastic bag kind of thing kicking around that you're not using, that's also a good one. Okay, paper towel rolls or toilet paper rolls. We can do some really cool stuff with these. And so those are great as well. And this was kind of the underdog that I didn't anticipate would be really helpful, but it's cupcake liners or muffin liners. They're really great because, as you can see, that little like crinkled edge, it makes for a really cool look when you fold it up. So this was something that I didn't really think was going to turn out as well as it did, but it did, and I love it. So those are great if you have those lying around. As well, Q-tips or cotton balls. It's just a different texture, and what we're trying to do here is just show different kinds of coral and have different heights and different textures and just different looks. So trying to transform these everyday ordinary objects or materials and making them into these really intricate or detailed things. Okay, so as well, other things you'll need. Oh, also you can use any other kind of papery or recycled material other than what I have here. This is just what I had around my house. So what's important is with this project is you just using what you have. There's no need to go and buy stuff. Whatever you have lying around the house that your parents are able to give you or to let you use, go for it. And sometimes the most interesting projects can come out of things that you don't really think are going to work out as art projects. Like, who would have thought? Coffee filters, toilet paper rolls. You can do a lot of cool stuff with things you just have around your house. Also, paper, if you just have like blank paper, a lot of the things that I did with the coffee filters, you could do with paper as well. So if you don't have any of those, if you just have paper, you can still do a lot with that. It's all about how you use the material and not necessarily how much or what you have. It's how you use it, right? Okay, so as well with the all these materials or any of them, what you also need is a good pair of scissors, some tape or glue. I kind of used both, and honestly, tape would probably just be fine, but you could get away with using glue as well. Obviously with glue, you kind of need time to let it dry and to kind of stick and get in place, because they're also can be flimsy and fall over. So you want to make sure that if you're using glue, you're just being a bit more patient and letting things kind of dry and stick before you move it around too much. Okay, let's get started. So yeah, this is just something I was just playing around with it a little bit. So feel free to use this as inspiration. I was working off of a photo I saw. It looks like someone made a display window and made a giant thing like what we're doing, but made it giant. So that was my inspiration. So I had that photo to look on. You're welcome to Google coral reefs if you wanted a bit more inspiration for yourself to look at a real life image. Or I'm sure if you Googled coral reef made out of paper materials, the same image would kind of pop up. So anything you need to kind of get those creative juices flowing. But yeah, I had a lot of fun making this, so I hope you guys will too. For my 7 years and under art students, I think if you just focused on maybe trying to do 1 or 2 different kinds of coral to fill the page, that would be best. And then the older groups, I would say to try as many of these as possible. It just kind of creates a more full project. And also with mine, I didn't fill the entire space, but I would love for you guys to fill the entire cardboard square or rectangle with the different kinds of coral. So my favorite areas of the piece are where it's all full. Like this is probably my favorite spot because all the little nooks and crannies are full. And by the end of it, you don't want to see cardboard as the base. You want it to be all filled with this awesome paper material coral. Okay, so I will get started. I have a little extra piece of cardboard that I'll be working on today. I'm just gonna put the demo to the side, but we can refer back to it and I'll probably use it to show you guys what I'm making. So the first one that I'm gonna do is this wavy one here. I don't really know the names of the kinds of coral or the different sea creatures, but I've seen pictures of this kind of coral and it's all kind of like wavy and laced in together. So to make that, I used a coffee filter. What I did is I'm gonna move that out of the way. I folded it in half and then just proceeded to kind of fold it into like a pizza slice looking thing. So I had this like triangle shape, just like that. And then see, it has that kind of fan and like zigzaggy look to it. And it helps that it has the crinkles in the coffee filter already. So it has that wavy, almost natural look to it. And then what I did to stick it down, I just kind of folded and made like a little tab. So I had something to stick it. And obviously it's the first one, so it's gonna like flop around a bit because it doesn't have anything to support it. But took a little bit of tape or glue. Then you're just gonna tape it down. And then as you add more, it'll have more to support. So we'll just do a couple more. And the more that you have and the more that you build up an area with, the more interesting it's gonna look. We'll do the same kind of thing, kind of tape it down on its side. And even just with those two, I think it has a really fun look. It's like very sculptural and airy, and it gives a really nice, you can really see that like wavy texture. It looks like something you'd find underwater. So that's how this is probably the most like simple fold. It's just using that rounded coffee filter, folding it into a couple triangles. You get that really interesting wavy texture. And then what I did with this one, I built up around the bottom edges with the other texture of the crinkly not coffee filter, the cupcake and muffin little wrappers. So because it's a similar kind of thing, it's like a rounded paper object. So it gave the same look as this one did, the coffee filter, just on a smaller scale. And same kind of thing, I folded it in half. You can also fold it again into the smaller triangle and do the same kind of thing as the coffee filter, or leave it big, like just fold it in half. And then when you stick it down, I kind of like crumpled it a bit just to make it look a little bit more natural. Crumple it down and then we'll stick it and I'll show you. It just kind of fills that little edge a little bit more. Tape it down. We'll do a couple more just to fill the space. And the great thing is because in nature and in the natural world, nothing's perfect. So if things are a bit crinkled, then that's okay. It's just gonna make it look like a little bit more of a natural thing. So see, same kind of thing. It's filling that space and then giving really great texture and life to a normally flat thing. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so yeah, those are that technique, it really fills the space. It has a lot of volume, and I think it looks really beautiful. So that's a really great technique if you just want to fill some space. So getting into a really fun one that another favorite part of this paper activity is the toilet paper roll. I feel like when you look at this, you wouldn't really guess that it's a toilet paper roll because it's totally transformed. I cut mine in half. So if you have something longer than this, I would probably suggest cutting it in half or else you're gonna get a super tall, gigantic thing. And also this makes the paper, it makes it last a bit longer. So I just snip it. Please be careful with your scissors. If you do need help cutting stuff, ask your parents to give you a little hand. But especially with cutting the cardboard itself, you might want to get help from a parent. Obviously we want everyone to be careful and not hurt themselves. Sometimes it can be hard to cut cardboard, so just be careful. Anytime that you're cutting anything, just be careful, watch those fingers. So from one toilet paper roll, I got 2 of those. I think they're supposed to be sea anemones. I think that's what they're called. They're like those, they have the little like wavy fingers. Anyways, I think they're really fun and they look great with this project. So what I did to create that fan look, I just cut about halfway down the toilet paper roll. I made a bunch of small cuts. I'll do a couple and then I'll show the camera. Do a couple like cuts about that big. The more, like the less space in between, the more of those little like fingery things you'll have coming out the side, so it'll look a bit more detailed. But if you want wider, I call them fingers. I don't even think they're fingers, but you guys know what I mean. The wider you cut them, the just bigger they'll look. It's a different look and it's totally up to you. This is your coral reef, so it has to look how you think it should look. Just gonna make the cuts all the way around. And you wanna do it about equal distance. Obviously, if it's not perfectly the same all the way across, it's okay, but you want it to be a good amount the same. Okay, so now I have this little hat looking like thing. All you do is you just take those little fingers and curl them down, kind of push them out first. And then if you have something rounded, and I actually have this paintbrush here, you could kind of use that as a tool to help round and curl those edges, or your finger, whatever works. But you just want them to fan out because that's when they really it gives it a bit of life doing it that way. Okay, and voila, very fun. So you can just curl those any way you like. Sometimes I have some of them standing up more than the others, but something like about that. And as you're building your coral reefs, you want to think about composition. And what I mean by composition is where you're placing things where. In coral reefs, they kind of like grow into the next and they're all kind of placed in different spots. So by having a natural look to things and having things kind of placed all over, but with still like a thoughtful manner to where you're putting things, that's important because you want things to still look good next to each other. It's like if you're making a painting, you want to arrange your painting in a nice, visually pleasing way. So you're trying to fill the space, but in a way that looks really nice as well. So you could make a couple of these. I did one on this one. I was just playing around with it and I did one larger circle just as I cut how I showed you guys this way, but then I also made a couple little ones and it's super easy. I did the exact same way, like this step, but all I did one extra little step. I just cut this in half after I did those little frayed edges. And then you can make different size ones. So the opportunities and options are completely endless. It's wherever you can take this and however you can figure out ways to fold paper and manipulate it to look like something different. And then you got little baby ones. So different ways to do those toilet paper rolls, but I think they look really awesome. And it's a different texture and a different form rather than the folded crinkled paper. It's just something different. It's visually exciting and it's different. Okay, so that is that. Oh, and so with this one, I found it was easiest just to tape it. Again, if you just have like that Elmer's glue or that kind of regular white glue, it does work. But like I said, it just takes a bit longer for things to adhere because you have to wait for glue to dry. but I will just tape mine for the purpose of this video so I can show you guys many things. Tape that guy down. Okay, great. So next, what shall we do? Okay, this other one, which is super fun, and I think if you take the time to really fill up an area with these like tubular little rolls, it has such a great effect. I'll hold it here. As you can see, it has such great height and it looks really, really cool. Here, I'll spin it around. You guys can see. It just has a really awesome look to it, especially when there's a bunch clustered together. With this project, it's not something you want to rush. You want to take your time and really build up the surface and create a lot of surface interest. That's the most fun part, because you're layering all these different things together, and the more you take time to build something up, the more interesting and detailed it'll look. You'll be able to tell that you spent a lot of time making it look interesting and trying to really fill it with a bunch of beautiful coral. Okay. So this is also a very simple but effective way to make it look really, really outstanding. So again, it's I used coffee filters just because I found it easy, because the material is so light and you can roll it really easily. But you could use paper, you could use anything. Also, something I don't have is tissue paper. That could also work well. Obviously, what I have here is really like natural colors or white. But if you have colored paper or colored plastic bags or anything like that, feel free to do that. This is just what I had lying around. But yeah, any kind of like tissue paper, if you're able to use some, if you have like an old crinkled piece that won't really look good wrapping a present together, use it for this, because it would totally work just like the coffee filter's working and the these cupcake liners are working. So similar kind of paper substance, but that being said, any paper will do. As long as you can fold it and stick it and glue it, you're good. So anyways, with mine, what I did, I think I folded it. Folding it kind of creates a little bit more, it just like makes the fold happen quicker. So I made it into a long tube. And then I just taped where that little like flap end comes out. I just taped that down so it stays in that like cylinder shape. Okay. And as you can see, it is very tall and probably won't work well if you tried to stick it that height. So you can actually make a couple of these tubes just by cutting and using that same one coffee filter or same one piece of paper rolled up. So just take this one down first. Again, a super simple way, just rolling up some paper, but it's totally transforming it from the initial object of what it was before. And I'm sure if someone walked by this, they would never guess that it was coffee filter, because it's totally, totally different now. Okay, so same kind of thing. Tape or glue. I'm gonna use tape and taping down the sides. Also, the first couple may be a bit wobbly and you may have a hard time keeping them upright or even just together. But the more you build them up together, the more they're gonna stay. So, oh, my corals are getting in the way now. But that's what you want. You wanna have nice full space. Okay, so yeah, I just kind of started with a few, and we'll just kind of build around it. And with this, what you want to do is have a couple different heights. If they're all the same height, you won't get to see the individual pieces as well. So you want to kind of have them being slightly different heights from each other and also kind of coming out. Think of like it bursting out, not all standing up straight like skyscrapers. You want to have them kind of sticking outwards. This is where I found that tape was really useful, because with glue, you'd probably have to hold it in place for a long time, which can get kind of tiresome. So if you have tape for this one in particular, it would probably work best. Maybe I'll fold up one more, then so I can show you guys. Make a really short one, and then we have a medium-sized one. Okay, same kind of thing. You're just building it out, making sure the area is well covered and things are kind of fitting snugly in each other. because I'm gonna have to bring that a bit closer. Because like I said, we want to fill the whole space and make it look like it's completely covered in coral. So you can see how when they're kind of facing out, it's an easier way to cover more ground as well. Also, I think it looks more fun. It looks more natural. It looks like something you'd actually see if you were snorkeling underwater. Okay, so that's just like a little small area example. But yeah, different heights, and it just really it's a lot of fun because it's sticking out in all directions. It's kind of fun. It's playing off of the different, like the anemone guy. And yeah, I think if you build it up and make it like a little corner or a space, of the cardboard, it'll really have a lot of impact. And with mine, what you can do, with these different methods of, the different corals you can make, you don't have to have them all separate. You can kind of integrate them together. Like with this, oops, I'm knocking down my coral. Oh my goodness. Okay, so with like these two examples, I used both the coffee filters and the cupcake liners mixed with this, the tubular guys. So you can have a mix of things and integrate them together. They don't all have to be separate because like I said, in the natural world, things all just kind of grow into each other. And I think it almost makes it look more interesting if you can kind of mix a couple things together, make it look like a hybrid of the things. Okay, next, maybe we'll do the foil. So I was just kind of playing around with this. Foil is really, it's great because it has so much structure on its own. So you can really manipulate it into anything you can think of, any shape. If you want to make it into like these fan parts or the tubular guys, anything like that, you can pretty much do with foil. That's what's so great about it. I just was like, okay, what is a different shape that I don't have already that I could make? So this is what I came up with, just kind of little circular, they're almost like cones, kind of like these wide cones. Again, just something, I looked at a picture of coral and was inspired by that, so I tried to mimic it with that, the material. So what I did, I cut out, I'll show you, I'll just make a quick cut. Kind of like a fan shape. I found this was easiest. And then I just rolled it together. And because it's foil, I kind of folded, oops, I'm ripping it all. I folded it in on itself, but you could use, to like secure the little piece, you could use a piece of tape. So I'll do that. Well, the foil's kind of fun just because it does have such a different texture than the paper. If you, you can crinkle it up to make it super textured on the outside of the foil, or if you can, try your best to keep it not crinkled, but either way, it has a really awesome look to it. And just, I think it's really fun. So same kind of thing. I found it's easiest when you're taping any of these paper things or foil things down to give yourself, make a little tab or some kind of folded edge at the bottom where you could easily tape it on top. So I'll do it on this side. So I'll get tape, like I said, tape or glue. Be my first piece. I'll do a couple more to build around it. Kind of fold it around. Okay. And as you can see, I'm working quite quick when I do this, but for you guys, just take your time. Be thoughtful of where you're placing things and how you're manipulating the material, and really have fun with it and take your time, because that's when you'll get the most amazing work. So I'll just do a couple of those there. So you can see they just have a really fun look to them, especially with the reflective quality of the foil. You get a really interesting look. But like I said, please feel free to totally go wild with how you use the foil or any of the other materials. If there's a different way you come up with, I would love to see it. So when you send in your pictures, it'll be really great to see how everyone takes their own way and takes the materials and changes it up. These are just the ways that I thought of though. Okay, let's do the cardboard next. So if you're like me and have a couple cardboard boxes at home, there'll be different parts of the cardboard box you can use. And with this project, because it's not a giant, we're not doing a giant board, you probably will have a couple extra little pieces lying around. So with cardboard, it has different layers, and the interior layer of the cardboard, it's like wavy, as you can see with this, my example. It has a really awesome wave crinkle texture, similar to the cupcake filter, or sorry, the cupcake liner. It has that natural crinkle edge to it, which is really, really fun to use. So what you do is you carefully you can actually peel this layer off. So it's the first, let's get this away. So it's like the paper part, and if you carefully pull it away, you may have to go back in and retake off the paper. So sometimes it works and it's really impressive and it just peels off in one great swoop. So maybe I'll try from this edge. It might work a bit better for me. So if you're having trouble with this part, just get a parent or a sibling or someone to help you out. See, there we go, now it'll work. See, it's just glued on this first paper layer. Kind of like bubble wrap, has that satisfying rip. And what's awesome, there we go. What's awesome about when you take off those outside layers of cardboard is it makes it really pliable. So you can do a lot more with it. This is just a normal piece of cardboard, and see, it bends. It doesn't really want to do anything. But when you take off both sides, take off the other side, and you'll see you're able to kind of use it more like a piece of paper. It doesn't really have that structure and stiffness anymore. So you can make really great shapes with it. Okay, come on, cardboard. I knew it was going to be difficult when I was going to try and film. It happened so easily. It worked so well when I was doing this on my own. Okay. Well, that's decent. Let's see if I can get this last corner off. For the purpose of the video, it doesn't have to be perfect. But when you guys do it, take your time, get all the paper off. Hopefully it'll work a bit easier for you than it is for me. Okay, so not perfect, but you guys get the picture. See? Super pliable, really fun, and it has a really awesome texture to it. That kind of looks like what we're doing already. And you can also use the layers that you ripped off. It's also a nice paper material. You could use it same kind of way you could roll it up. There's many things you can do. Nothing is really, you don't have to throw out really anything that you are using. You can just repurpose it in a different way. Okay. Put my scraps over there. So with this, again, how I did it was I made like a wavy fan to it. But you could also do it probably like how the coffee filter looks, how it's that like folded in on itself and you're looking more at what's happening here. But I just love the texture of the outside of this. So how I did this is I kind of like take a little bit and fold it. Is that a good description? Hopefully you guys know what I mean, right? So kind of making it like an accordion. So folding it in on itself and gathering it at the bottom to make that like fan. Okay, so this is a bit of a larger piece than what I used. Use a little fan. Okay, perfect. So this is what we have, and then and that's the beauty of live videos, everybody. So let's try that again. Hopefully the cardboard will behave for me this time. Okay, here we go. We're back in business. Maybe, you know what? I'm gonna use a smaller sheet. We're learning as we go, everybody, and that's totally fine. Okay, so we have our fanned out cardboard. And what I'm gonna do is secure the bottom, again, with a little piece of tape. And that's easiest, especially because this cardboard is really strong, so it needs something that's gonna hold it together. Okay, so now it's a bit more manageable. It's not flying across the room. We have it. Okay, so what I did with mine, one little side note, as you can see, some of the things I made, they're kind of spilling off of the edge. Don't be afraid to let that happen. It definitely looks more natural. You're not confined to the square. If things leak off the edge, so be it. I think it adds a bit more fun to it, looks a bit more lively. like it's growing off the page. So that's what I just did with mine. If you have a lot of cardboard, this could be something, like I said, that would be cool and interesting, like the coffee filter. If you had a bunch of these all fanned out around each other, they look really cool that way as well. I only had a little bit for what I was doing, so I just kind of stuck it as like a fanned piece off the edge. Not only does it look really cool, but it fills the space in an interesting way. Like I said, with this project, we're kind of going for different heights, different textures, different materials. So to have some stuff on that's a bit more flat and maybe not as sky high as the tubular guys, it's interesting, it's different, and it's creating all those different looks that we're going for. Okay, so yeah, simple way to make a material look really fun. Alrighty, and so the saran wrap, this is one where I just tried it in that one way, but I feel like you could, I mean, saran wrap is kind of a difficult thing to use because once it's stuck to itself, it doesn't always want to unstick. What I did is cut mine into strips, and then I made these loopy little bits that you could string around. I made it almost like, it looks kind of like a flower, but any way you could use the saran wrap, I kind of twisted it. I'll show you how I did it, but I like twisted it and made it like a rope and then stuck it all together. Even if it was just kind of on its own, just because it's a different material, it's that see-through, shiny, plasticky material, it just looks great. It has an awesome look to it. It's similar to the foil. It's different than just paper or cardboard. It has an interesting look to it. So I just made a cut, kind of roll it up like a rope. Kind of made some bows. Like I said, this is an open-ended, see how you can transform the material in a different way. So I basically made a bunch of those little things. I just thought they looked interesting. They kind of looked like something I've seen growing in coral. And then basically I made myself a little base with the coffee filter, or you could probably use like something like this just to have it stick into something. I found it was a little bit difficult to stick it, maybe if I used tape or something a bit stronger. But as you can see, it's something that would look really interesting if there was a bunch of them all clumped together. You know, they look like two bunny ears right now, but I think they could be really awesome if you made a lot more of them. Let's see, I'll make one more just to give you a better idea. But I'm sure, like with the one that I did previously, though, it just, you can see the more of them there are, just the more interesting it looks, and that's kind of what we're going for. Building up the surface. That is the biggest thing. Taking your time to find interesting ways to fold paper and to create something totally new. Okay. Sticking it next to its buddy. See, already just by having a little bit more, it looks so much better. Just adding more material to create more interest. Okay, what am I missing? Oh, okay. So I saw this in the image that I was initially looking at. Cotton swabs. So Q-tips, cotton swabs, whatever you want to call them. I think in the image I was looking at, they looked really awesome. But I think because I didn't have a lot supporting these, like I just kind of glued them in the middle of the cardboard area. They didn't want to stand up as much, so I kind of had to change up my plan. So as you can see, I cut them all up onto like just the tip end of it, and then glued it into a little cupcake thing. And I think it does look great. It has a really fun texture to it because it's all those the little tips of the cotton, the Q-tips really have a fun look to them. But if you can find a way to maybe even look at that, I solved my problem. You could just incorporate them within other things. Because I think why it didn't work for me initially was it didn't have anything to support against itself, but by incorporating them into the tubes, it gives them it's something to like tape to stand up straight. But like I said, different ways to use them. You can cut them up and just use the tail ends. You could even repurpose the middle part and make that into something. Another, like what I was thinking about actually just looking at, if I didn't use, actually, I'm gonna use this one because I already cut off the top of this one. You could even like stick them, if you had a bunch of them, you could stick them inside of these things, right? Use them in a different way, put a bit of glue at the bottom or some tape at the bottom and just stick a bunch of them in. It's just gonna, I'm getting a phone call. You can just use it in different ways. That's the biggest thing, is testing out different ways. There's no right or wrong way to do it. So pardon me, I'm gonna deal with the phone. Enjoy the lovely music for a moment. Okay, and we are back. So those are some of the ways that I chose to use the material. As you can see, I also took some of the foil and wrapped it in similar kind of shape as these and stuck them inside of those toilet paper rolls. Pretty much the moral of the story is the options and opportunities are endless. Figure out different ways you can fold paper. You could use different materials that you'd normally throw in the recycling bin or discard. There's so much you can do with what you have at home. It's amazing, and it's fun to see how you can totally transform some simple things into beautiful coral reefs. So yes, like I said, with the project, you want your cardboard to be no bigger and no smaller really than 8.5 by 11. So this is just a normal piece of paper sheet. So kind of go by that size. Please fill the entire space. If you would like to add color, I don't know how easy it's going to be to paint these things, so you don't have to. I think it almost looks interesting being able to see the material's natural color as well, because it gives you a little hint of maybe what it was before we transformed them. But if you do have colored materials, like I said, tissue paper, colored plastic bags, whatever you have available, totally fine to use, but you don't have to like paint these or anything after. But if you'd like to, that's totally up to you, but you don't have to. For the age groups from age 7 and under, if you would just want to focus on maybe 1 or 2 of these ways that I showed you and make yours just all fill that way. But if you're welcome to challenge yourself, but I'm only saying you only have to do 1 or 2 different ways to make the coral. For the older groups, if you would please include at least one, like use this at least once, use each way at least once. And then if you have your own ways that you want to fold the paper or fold the materials to make them interesting, please do so. But I would like to see all of the ways that I showed you today incorporated in your project. And what else am I missing? So you'll be sending the photos of your completed projects by the next Thursday. So each project I'll show you on the Thursday, and then by next Thursday we would like to have the images sent in. We'll make sure to attach all the proper info of where you send the images to. And yeah, it'll be really fun to see what you guys all come up with. I'm very excited. It's a fun activity to do. I really enjoyed making these, so I hope you guys enjoy them as well. And yeah, I can't wait to see what you come up with. So have fun. You just need a couple materials to get going. Please be careful if you're cutting cardboard or other materials on your own. If you need help, please do ask your parents or siblings, someone that can help you. Because we want it to be fun, but we want it to be safe, and that's important as well. So yeah, we'll have a great time making this project, you guys. I cannot wait to see what you come up with, and I have some great projects on the way for next week as well. Okay, bye guys, have fun.